All right, hey folks. So today I'm going to be reacting to Jeff Cavalier from Athlean X's best chest exercises ranked from best to worst. All right, so this should be fun. So I want to see what old Jeff has to say about the various exercises and what my opinion is of that. So let's crack on. Now the video is like relatively long, it's like 15 minutes, so I'm probably going to be fast forwarding through a few bits. So let's see what he has to say.
Arnold, the bench fly still gets the big red X.
All right, let's go into the first one.
I love Arnold doesn't mean that I have to love the fly. Not because I want to dislike the exercise, but more so that my physical therapy background tells me that there's reasons to dislike it. When you perform it on a bench in this unsupported way with no safety net, you increase the risk.
Okay, so Jeff doesn't like the bench fly, and I think I know why. So Jeff puts this in the like worst category. I think I know why, because if you look at the form that he's using, he's got his elbows right out, his arms coming straight out from the body. Jeff, someone needs to school you on this, bro, because that is not the way you're supposed to be doing the fly. Like that is the way you would dislocate your shoulder. The elbow's got to come down a little bit, okay? Otherwise, you're not going to get the same level of stretch on the pec. You're actually just going to end up stretching the shoulder. Like this is chest training 101, Jeff. Come on. So with the chest fly, like with any chest exercise, you don't want to be pressing out here. Okay, you want to be pressing down there. That position enables you to stretch your chest out properly. That is just going to be limited by the flexibility of the shoulder. So one of the reasons why Jeff probably doesn't like the bench fly is his form. Now, I'm not trying to dog on Jeff, like great guy, obviously great physique, knows what he's doing, but in this case, dude, you're wrong. So that's not how you perform a fly. You perform fly with your elbows down a little bit. And this is one of Arnold's favorite, yes. And if you listen to the teachings of Arnold, he would tell you that a lot of people don't know how to do this properly because they do it like you're doing here. Arnold said specifically, you should do it like you're hugging, like you're doing, giving someone a big bear hug, not with your arms up here, but with your arms down there. That's how you get the correct position for the shoulders. So you might consider it a bad chest exercise, Jeff, but you're not doing it right, dude. You got to get your elbows down a little bit. All right. So moving on,
to the anterior shoulder capsule.
He does give a suggestion to do the bench fly on.
And the issue with the standing cable,
he gives a suggestion to do the bench fly on the floor, which I don't think is a great idea because you lose the range of motion. And in the fly, the biggest thing that you're gaining is the stretch at the bottom because you're not getting a contraction so much at the top because the resistance kind of dies at the top because of dumbbells. Now, the next exercise he gives is this one. So this is the standing cable press.
The press is, it provides more of a challenge to your core than the muscles you're actually trying to build. And just getting into this position here with any type of heavy weight is going to make my abs.
Now, quite rightfully so. I'm not going to disagree with him. Like in that position, you would have to use so much weight that the stability of your upper body would be massively compromised. So it'll end up being more of a core exercise. But my response to that is, and I'm not trying to turn this into a Athlean X diss video. I'm really not, like, as I quite like the guy. But my reply to this is, who does this, Jeff? Who's doing this exercise? I don't see anyone doing this exercise. I see lots of people doing cable crossovers, sure. I see lots of people doing seated cable crossovers, but I see very few people doing cable presses. Like that's not what I see people doing. That's what he's talking about here as a cable press. Like this is just like, yeah, I don't know. This is like saying, yeah, you know what? It's not so much fun driving on the wrong side of the road. Yeah, it's not, but no one does that really. So, and if you do, you know what you're going to get. So yeah, not the best example, but there you go. Anyway, moving on.
Work much harder to make sure that I don't fall backwards when I'm doing the movement. And it matters too, by the chest. Well, that being said, we have to find that happy medium. And once you cross over 50 or 55 or 60 degrees, you're actually starting to go into that realm of less work for the chest and more for the front delts, which is not why you're doing the exercise in the first place. If you want to maximize your gains on the incline bench press, we're going to choose a lower angle.
Yeah, so this one I actually fully agree with Jeff on. I think he's right on the money here. Inclines at too high an angle are not the way forward. So actually there's some, what Jeff didn't point out in his video, and I can give you guys a bit of illustration on this, is they've done EMG studies on angles for the bench press and the incline in particular. Now, they found that a 45-degree angle actually does activate the upper pec more, but it also activates the front delt a hell of a lot. So the best compromise between angle for maximum chest recruitment and trying to at least not let the delt be such a major player is about 30 degrees. So for that, I do agree with Jeff on that. Like too high of an incline, not so great. I would actually say it's a little bit lower than we think, and it's more like 30 degrees, well, maybe lower than what Jeff's suggesting. It's more like 30 degrees, I think, is your optimal. 45 is very good for upper pec recruitment, but also massively involves the delts, which is not a bad thing, but it means that your delts might become the prime movers rather than the upper chest. So 30 degrees seems to be a little bit safer in that regard. All right, let's see what else it's got to say. So far, 2 and 2, agree and disagree.
We'll cover that one later, but for now, the 60-degree incline bench press has to get the big red X. No, time hasn't made it any better. It's still fucking stupid. All right, so now those gladly behind us, I get to break out my blue marker as we work our way up the limitations here that I think is important for you to be aware of. And we have to start right here with the king of all of the better exercises. It's the push-up. And I say the basic push-up because the basic push-up is oftentimes, as I pointed out in our major criteria in the beginning of this video, not challenging enough. It's just simply not driving enough.
Yeah, and another one where I would agree with Jeff on this. The basic push-up is a good exercise, but it's not really good enough because you can't necessarily load it massively. Like, yes, you can do the whole thing about putting the weight on your back, but it's a very awkward way to add weight to the bar, to add weight to the exercise. So if you are ever going to employ this, the way that I would use it is as part of a agonistic superset. Whereas let's say you're doing dips to failure followed by push-ups. That's not a bad way of doing things. Or bench press to failure followed by push-ups to failure. That's not a bad way of doing things. I typically use the dip to push-up combination quite a lot. So it's quite a good one. That's not a bad way of doing things. Yeah, like cable crossovers to push-ups, again, not a bad way of doing things. If you want to finish off your pecs for the day, ending with cable crossovers, then doing a set of push-ups after every set is also a nice way. I've done that in the past. I don't do that at the moment. I don't have any clients on that, but that's not a bad way. I've done it in the past. It works pretty well.
Of a stimulus to cause change in the size of your chest because you can improved version of it or a safer version of it. And for that, we have to look at the floor fly. I'm a much bigger fan of.
Yeah, so I massively disagree with Jeff on this one for some very practical reasons. Also, by the way, if you notice here, look at the angle of his elbows. He's doing this better. Do you remember what I said about the chest fly? He had his elbows right out. Look at what he's doing here. Because the weight is like supposedly a bit heavier and he's bracing more, his elbows naturally come down a little bit lower. He's doing this exercise better. Interesting. I wonder if Jeff is aware that he's doing that differently. I'm not sure if he is. But anyway, his elbows are in a better position there, they're slightly further down. Now, I don't like this because you take away the most useful part of the exercise, which is the bottom part, which is the stretch. And you also have to use heavier weight on this variation than on a regular variation. So you have the added risk of injury because you're adding weight to an isolation exercise above and beyond what its normal parameters make you capable of, and you don't get the benefit of the stretch. I just don't think this is a great idea. There's nothing here that couldn't be accomplished by a good press. Yeah, I don't like this. I prefer to think that most isolation exercises should be leveraged in a disadvantageous position to put as much stress on the target muscle as possible. I don't like the way Jeff does this. All right, moving on.
Of this exercise because it's definitely the floor fly. And wrapping up our better category here is an often overlooked exercise, 60-degree incline dumbbell bench press. EMG studies have actually shown superior activation of the.
Okay, so this is the. I do agree with Jeff on this because he goes on to say that this sort of inverted bench press is really good for upper pec recruitment, but he says the limitation is the loading. So I completely agree with Jeff on this. Like, it does, you feels good on the pec. You know, it does. It's kind of like doing a cable crossover when you're going from low to high. It does feel good in the upper pec. It activates the upper pec, but loading becomes an issue. So it's one of those where it's debatable how useful this would be in a routine, particularly when you have better options for the upper pecs. I see people doing this. I see people doing this sort of like this or like as a flying type of motion. I actually saw a guy do that for like 20 minutes the other day in the gym while I was doing a bunch of other stuff. But again, loading becomes a problem, and I'm not so sure how useful that is from that angle. So I agree with Jeff on this. His analysis is spot on. It's good activation, but loading becomes a problem, and loading is what we're after. So that is an issue. Moving on.
Those chest, get that good right here with that variation of the push-up and bring it dramatically downwards. But at the same
Now, I will admit here, this is not something that I've actually seen a great deal of, but he's got a point. This looks pretty good.
Of it, and that's really all that matters. No matter what count you can do of your regular push-up right now, I promise you less push-ups here, but more from it. For that reason, we give the twisting push-up the first in the better still category.
I will give Athlean next to Jeff Cavalier the benefit of the doubt on that one. It's not something I've tried before, but you know what? There you go. Maybe I've learned something new today. The twisting push-up, perhaps something I'll try. It looks like a hard. I'm all about harder variations of great exercises, so that's right up my alley.
Or bench. But the limitation here comes in the same thing that we dealt with the standing cable press. I believe the cable crossover is an exercise that we can load up much heavier than we traditionally do. But as we do, we can see we have the same stability demands and the demands placed on the core to keep us in this upright position that might limit the amount of weight that we can use. If we limit the amount of weight...
Jeff, what are you doing, bro? That's not how you do a cable crossover. Like, look at a guy like Nick Walker do his cable crossovers. Arms are pretty much straight. You're just slightly taking the slack out of it. You want to provide as much torque as on. You want to have really bad leverages for the chest to make the chest make it as hard for the chest as possible while using the least amount of weight. The way that Jeff's doing it is pretty much like a chest press. So no wonder he's struggling here. Dude, come on. That's not how you do a cable crossover. This is basic stuff. In fact, I'm pretty sure Jeff knows this. In fact, you know what? I'm starting to think Jeff only really does these videos for views and for content, and not to help people. No, it can't be true. So let's move on.
We limit the bench press because of the use of the cables. If I set the cables out wide, the line of resistance is the cable itself. So the fact that I have to get this works the lats because we're driving it with our elbows in this flared position. However, if you do the opposite of that and you bring your elbows as tight together as possible, you can quickly shift the focus to the upper chest because it's got all the components of a great upper chest contraction. Our arms are elevated up over our head, remembering that we go from this low to high position to get those upper chest fibers activated, and we have the squeeze and the adduction of the elbows as close together that really lights us up. Throw a dumbbell in our hand, we get the overload we're looking for, and that's the reason why I don't want you to overlook this exercise any longer. And so it's...
Yeah, so I'm with Jeff on that. I do like the dumbbell pullover. It's a good exercise for the upper pecs. So good on you, Jeff. I'm with you on that one.
Some top contenders left on the board. We move into our almost best category, and I get to break out my... especially if you angle your body more forward to favor the chest rather than staying upright and favoring your triceps. That being said, the opportunity here to load this exercise is going to be much easier than we have.
Jeff, I am right there with you. The weighted dip for the chest is amazing. Great exercise. Used it almost exclusively in my first year of training for my chest. Good on you, Jeff. I'm right there with you. Old guys unite. Let's see what else we've got. Coming to the end of the video now.
And it belongs there. All right, so if you haven't caught up by now, you know that I like adduction, and we want to try to get into the chest exercises we perform if we want to see the best gains from it. And that's why I got to go back to it once again with my best option here. This is the heavy one-arm crossover. And how is this different from the crossover? Well, in a very important way. Number one, much more stability. Instead of having to move...
Why, though? Why? Why, though? How many people really need to be doing one-arm pec work? And if you do, why wouldn't you just go stabilize your body as much as possible, do it in a machine where you've got a one-arm machine chest press, okay? Like one-arm dumbbell benches, I don't see that either. That's just silly. You got to stabilize yourself so much. And the one-arm cable crossover or press, whatever he's doing, because Jeff apparently doesn't know how to do a cable crossover, just stabilize yourself. Put yourself in a seated chest press machine and then do that with one arm. You don't have to stabilize the rest of your body. That's not what this is for. For any isolation exercise, your body should be absolutely stable so you can focus on the muscle you're trying to isolate. The very definition of an isolation exercise, the very need that you'll have for it is because it's probably lacking because other muscles normally take over. So if that's the case, the last thing you want to be doing is doing this while you're standing up. Come on, Jeff. This is weight training 101. You should know this. I expect better off you, Jeff. All right, moving on.
Stop doing this. We're putting it at that 30 to 45 degree angle, not the steeper angle that we talked about before. Because as I said,
Okay, I kind of half agree with him here. And as I pointed out earlier, I would say I get where he's coming from 30 to 45. The best angle I would say is 30, because at 45, you're going to get slightly more shoulder, particularly front deltoid in the movement. While you do get higher levels of upper chest activation, the front delts come into a lot more. So for 30 degrees, you get more overall chest and less overall delt. So that appears to be the better angle. That's all I would say on this one. So I'm not necessarily disagreeing with him here. And overall, I'd say Jeff, I do like Jeff. He knows what he's doing. He's good lad. Good lad is our Jeff. But there's a couple of bits I would disagree with him. This one, I think he's roundabout on the money. I would half agree with him here. I prefer 30 to 45. All right, moving on.
Angle trying to grow rather than your shoulders. This is my choice right here firmly at the top. And so then he lists ranking the best chest exercises. I want to make sure that you're doing one of them. And the reason why we put this at the top of this list is because it gives us the best opportunity to do.
Yeah, I'm glad Jeff went with this. He's keeping it real. Good on you, Jeff. There's a lot of bench press bashing these days, isn't there? Like, I don't want to use bench press. I'm not a powerlifter. Let's use dumbbells or something else, whatever. So everyone's trashing the barbell. Everyone's trashing the bench press. Yeah, but it bloody works. It's really good. Like, if you get a big bench press, you're probably going to get a big chest. I mean, when I was coming up, the bigger my bench press got, the bigger my chest got. It worked. So good on you, Jeff. Keeping it real. I like that. And I think that's probably the end.
The one thing that we know can continue to drive both high strength down into that heavy one-arm crossover. Realize ditch. The key is.
All right. So that was fun. And yeah, overall, I'm a big fan of Jeff. If I disagree with him, it's done out of a place of respect. I do like the guy. I think he's pretty cool. And he's got a great physique considering his age, right? Which is something that you got to respect. I do like his analysis of the lift, so I thought it was worth exploring that one. A couple of bits I disagree with him on. I don't like the elbow position of his flies. And I don't like the way he does give crossovers most notably. But apart from that, I think he's got some good info. So good on you, Jeff. Thanks for the video. Hope you all enjoyed my analysis of that.